Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this evening. My name is Bose Agbasowa, and I'm the current president for 2020-21. So I'm going to just check and see if we have visitors. I don't know what visitors we have anyway, but I know that we have people that's joined us. So I will say, I know there's Debbie here, but she's on mute, but I'll still say welcome to Debbie for joining us.
Good evening.
I will say, oh, hi, Debbie. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. This is Bossa speaking.
Good evening.
And I've got Eve. Yeah, good evening. I'm just trying to see who else is joining us. Okay, I've got Victoria here. She's on mute as well. Thank you, Victoria, for joining us. I think there's Noel. Thank you, Noel, for joining us. And I will finally say thank you, Nick, for joining us as well. It's not really a meeting this evening. It's more of the webinar, but I'm just going to do the grace. And then after the grace, I would hand over to Imanchu. Imanchu will introduce Nick, and we'll just go on straight into the webinar because it's going to take, I think Nick is going to take about 45 minutes and then about 15 minutes for question and answer. So I don't want us to waste any time. So I'm going to say the grace now. Our Rotary grace. With our friends beside us and no person beneath us, with the bonds of Rotary between us and our worries behind us, with our goals before us and no task beyond us, with a thirst for knowledge and a dream of a peaceful world, we are thankful according to our individual beliefs for our Rotary friends and the fellowship we're about to share. So I'm going to hand over to Imanchu now to do a brief introduction about Nick, and then he will hand over to Nick and we'll be ready to hear from Nick. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, President Bose. Well, thank you again, Nick, for joining us today. I've heard Nick a couple of times, and every time I've heard him, I'm intrigued by this particular topic. In his profession, Nick helps teams achieve high-performance teamwork by facilitating bespoke team building programs and providing them with profiles and diagnostic tools to help them better understand who is in their team and how effectively they are working together. Nick works and continues to work with companies of all sizes across all industry sectors, including many FTSE 100 companies and global brands, both in the UK and internationally. After 20 years of working for Barclays, during which time he rose to director level, he used his knowledge and experience of successfully leading and then training individuals and teams to develop the first of 3 training companies he has run. He is currently MD of Engagement Works, whose mission is to engage individuals and motivate teams, helping them transform to achieve even greater success. He supports leadership, operational, and project teams in transforming to achieve greater success. Nick, you will be pleased to know, has spoken at over 500 conferences globally about how to achieve high-performance teamwork. So with that, over to you, Nick. I'll let you share your slide deck.
Great, thank you very much, Imanchu. I shall just switch across. It says I can't start screen share until you stop sharing yours. Great, thank you.
I've done that.
Great, fantastic. Okay, let's share mine and get it onto full screen. There we go. Great. Can everybody see my screen share? Yeah, thumbs up. Fantastic. Okay. Well, first of all, good evening, everyone, and firstly, thank you ever so much for inviting me to share some of my knowledge and experience with you, to hopefully help you with the people that you work with and the teams that you work with. So the session this evening, as it says on the screen, is how to achieve high performance teamwork. And as Himanshu said, this is something that I've been doing for the last 20 years with a variety of teams around the globe. So I thought before we get into the meat of things, I'll just give you a brief overview of myself so that you get to know me a little bit better. But before we do that, just a bit of Zoom familiarization. Have you been using Zoom quite a lot for your meetings? Yeah, so this should be fairly straightforward. So you can keep your videos on, don't worry, because it's a smaller group. As I was saying to Himanshu last week, I was speaking to 120, so it was quite off-putting then having everybody's video screens live. But keep yours on. If you can keep your microphones muted, that would be great. But there will be an opportunity throughout the session for you to ask questions, and I'll let you know when that is. I'm sure you all know where your Zoom toolbar is. It's going to be interactive, this session, so I'm going to get to you to answer a few questions. So your Zoom toolbar is either at the top of your screen, and it will drop down when you put your mouse up there, or for those people that use a Apple Mac, the toolbar is at the bottom of the screen. If you have any questions, use the chat box. Make sure it's set to everyone. I will stop at particular times during the session to answer questions. I won't do it all the time. I will just make sure that I keep checking on a regular basis. I don't know whether any of the sessions are going to be recorded at your end, Himanshu. Yes, they are. Okay, so just be aware of that. There's going to be some polls. I want to share your knowledge and experience and thoughts, and all the polls will be anonymous. I'm sure you're aware of this. Be respectful of others' views expressed. The session won't last any longer than 1 hour. And I'll get a copy of the relevant learning slides to Himanshu so that he can distribute accordingly. And last but not least, enjoy the learning, because all the research says if you have a smile on your face and you enjoy the learning, then you will remember it and use it for a longer period of time. So a little bit about me. I'm a behavioral psychologist. I've been a behavioral psychologist for over 20 years. I run a training company called Engagement Works. I'm originally from Plymouth in the very south of the country. But I live now in Bournemouth, and I've lived in Bournemouth for 15 years. I've had the wonderful opportunity to work with lots of well-known brands around the globe. Predominantly I work in the UK, but I do work further afield. And again, one of the things I'm passionate about is working in the voluntary sector. So as you can see, one of my biggest clients is the British Red Cross. So wherever possible, I love to give back to community organisations. As Himanshu said, I've spoken at over 500 conferences around the globe. The biggest conference audience that I've spoken in front of was 2 years ago in Singapore, when I spoke in front of 750 people. And again, that was about team building. And when I'm not working with teams or speaking at conferences, I write lots of articles about teamwork and team building, and I will signpost you to where you can have a look at those if you find this useful this evening. So what are we going to cover? We're going to cover 4 areas tonight. Why most teams are just average, the importance of knowing who is in your team, the value of knowing how effectively your team is working, and finally I'm going to give you some hints and tips that you can apply almost immediately when you're working in a team environment. So those are the four areas. So let's start off looking at team effectiveness. And I'm sure, like me, you've had that great feeling of working in a team that's high performing. We get that buzz, we get a certain energy from our colleagues in that team when things are going right. And that's a great place to be. However, not many teams actually achieve that high performing energy. So I've done some research in the last 5 years in terms of what percentage of teams are high performing, average, or developing. So let's get interactive, and I'm going to, now am I able to share the poll? No. Himanshu, are you able to pull the poll up? Because it doesn't, there we go. Okay, great. So simple question, what percentage of teams do you think achieve high performance? So have a look and then submit your response.
Okay, about, well, 10 of 15 have responded.
That's okay. Let's close the poll and share the results.
Okay.
Okay, so nobody said that 80% of teams are high performing. Fantastic. I'm really pleased about that. So the majority have gone for 33% of teams are high performing. So, okay, let's have a look at the actual results. So nobody chose 80% and nobody chose 10. In actual fact, it's only about 10% of teams achieve high performance teamwork. 50% are average, and frighteningly 40% need developing, so they are underperforming as a team. So some pretty frightening statistics there, and I wanted to understand what was going on when I developed that survey, and I had the opportunity a few years ago to speak in Beijing in China at a leadership conference, and it was a global conference, 35 countries, leaders from 35 countries, and I just asked them a couple of simple questions. What would make your teamwork even better? And there were lots of answers that came back. However, there were two answers that came up time and time again. And the first one was leaders were saying they wanted a better understanding of the individuals in the team. They didn't have a good understanding of their team members. And the second thing they said is, it would be good if we had a tool to help us measure how effective our teamwork is. So they were saying that they didn't have the tools available to them to help achieve high performance teamwork. And the year after, I spoke in Singapore at the Marina Bay Sands, and I shared this quote that, and I've seen it time and time again, that far too often leaders in teams, they're expected to achieve high levels of performance, yet they're not aware of the tools that are there and available to help them achieve it. And I just thought I would take this line of questioning a little bit further, and I just asked the audience in Singapore, I said, how many of you use behavioral profiling in your teams to understand your teams better? Only 25% of people said that they used behavioral profiling to understand who was in their team better. And then I said, how many of you measure how effective your teamwork is? And frighteningly, none of them did. And I think this is the reason behind teams not achieving high performance teamwork. You know, as I shared earlier on, there's only 10% that achieve it. And I think this is one of the problems. And I think it's exacerbated because we're not giving our leaders the training that they deserve to lead teams effectively. So on LinkedIn recently, I asked this question. Individuals who do not receive leadership training prior to leading a team. 70%. So 70% of our leaders are put in charge of teams and they've had no training whatsoever on how to lead a team, which I find really frightening. Also, of that 70%, 60% of them didn't actually get any training thereafter. So they were just left to sink or swim as leaders. So I think we're doing our leaders and we're doing our teams a disservice by not giving them the training and also not giving them the understanding of what is available to help them achieve high performance teamwork. And the analogy I like to make is it's as though team leaders are sat in a car with their teams. Now, if you were sat in your car and you saw this on your dashboard, so you've got the speedo, you've got the how much petrol you've got in the car, you've got the rev counter, it tells you whether the car's hot or cold and whether there's any warning signals. You'd probably be quite happy to drive your team somewhere in your car if you had this in front of you, because you've got the data, you've got the information to be able to do so. However, a lot of leaders are faced with this. They're faced with nothing in front of them to help them get to where they need to go to. When I talk about the tools and also the measures available, the majority of organizations and teams and leaders use key performance indicators. And this is an example of one. So it mentions at the bottom of the slide the team members, but all it talks about is how many hours they've logged in. You know, it talks about budget and revenue, and these sort of indicators are created from a legacy of financial reporting. These indicators tend to have been created by those in finance and those in accounting. However, what a lot of team leaders don't have and don't measure are teamwork indicators. And these are really, really important, because this gives you an understanding of your people in a team. And therefore, if you better understand the people in your team and how your team is working, you are more likely to achieve the key performance indicators that have been set for your team. So this is an example of what I call a teamwork indicator that I created with one of my clients recently. And the top part of it is looking at who is in your team. And I'll share a little bit more information about that in a moment. The second part of it at the bottom, where it says about the team effectiveness, that is measuring how effectively your team is working or not working, as the case may be. In this instance, this team were working extremely well together. So I think this is the crux of the matter, that we are not measuring the right things. We are not giving our teams the right tools to be able to understand each other better. So let's have a look at the importance of knowing who is in your team. Now, each and every one of us brings two things to a team, generically, everybody. And they're two high-level things. We bring with us our technical skills. So that could be a law degree, it could be a degree in accountancy, it could be that you have got an accreditation in PowerPoint or project management. So it's those things where you've had some technical training to achieve a goal, an accreditation, a certification. So we bring our technical skills with us. And the other thing that we bring with us is our people skills. So that's how do we communicate? Do we like verbal communication, or do we like writing things down? How do we make decisions? Do we make decisions based on logic and facts and figures? Or do we base our decisions on relationships and people and not upsetting them? So that's the sort of things that are covered in people skills. And there's been some research done in terms of which of these two skills is more important in terms of financial success of an organization. So Himanshu, if I could ask you to share that at the second poll. So the question here, these two percentages add up to 100%. The poll question that's going to be asked is, what percentage of financial success is generated from people skills? So do you think, is it 20% related to people skills, which would mean that the remaining 80% is technical? Is it 45 for the people, 55, right up to 85? So if you could think about that and then submit your answer, please.
$13 out of 17 people who responded. So
okay, that's good enough. Yeah. Okay, so we've got the majority of people have said that 70% of an organization's financial success is due to people skills. Okay, let's have a look. Let's see if you are right. And it's 85 and 15. So you're quite close with that one. So this really shows the importance of people skills within organizations and within teams. And in terms of the technical skills, there are a number of areas where we can find out what technical skills our colleagues have. So time to unmute yourselves if you've got a thought that you would like to share. Where can we find out a person's technical skills?
We can't see.
Where do you think we can?
Designing, like designing the business logo or
Okay, so so they're designing the business logo. So we would be able to see the technical skills. Yeah.
This is Ngozi. Yeah.
Yeah. So Ngozi, so we can actually see them using their technical skills. So that would enable us to say, yes, you've got the right skills. Yeah. So that's one area we can find. We can observe them. We can observe what they do on a job. Where else can we find out somebody's technical skills?
From their CV.
Excellent, Debbie, from their CV. We might need to check that out because, as we know, some people embellish their CVs. Yeah, we could find it out from their CV. We could find it out from HR records. If the organisation has a HR department, we can find out the records from there. They might bring along certificates of achievement with them. Again, we check these things out. So yes, you're right. CV, certificates, HR data records, and simply we can talk to them.
Interview.
We can interview them as well. Yeah.
Interview and asking them.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
And
an audit for the team. Definitely.
And as Ngozi said as well,
you can do a SWOT analysis.
We can observe them. We can watch them. So there's lots of places that we can find out somebody's technical skills. People skills, we tend to be able to pick up people's people skills through profiling. And I don't know whether you've come across profiles in your working careers. I've used them when I work with teams, as I said, for 20 years. And profiling, there's lots of profiling tools out there and models, and you tend to find that the profiling models that really work well are the ones that use color, because we all are very visual people, and color is an easy language for us to understand behaviors through. So I use a colorful model when I work with teams, and it's based on the work of a Swiss psychologist called Carl Jung, and he tends to be recognized as the father of modern day psychology. And Carl Jung talked about the fact that each and every one of us is unique, a unique individual, because we use 3 pairs of preferences, behavioral preferences, in different ways. And I've got 2 on the screen here that I'm just going to talk about a little bit. And the first pairing is introversion and extroversion. And most people have heard of this. This is where we get our energy. Introverts, intro is the Latin word for within, and version is from the Latin word vertare. So introverts turn within themselves. So vertare is to turn. Extroverts, extra is outside. So extroverts get their energy off other people because they turn outside. That's probably the biggest difference between individual people. It's the biggest cause of miscommunication and mistrust and disharmony. And I'll share a little bit about that in a moment. The second preference is thinking and feeling, and that is how we make decisions. Some people we come across make decisions logically. They use facts, data, information. So they're what we call thinkers. Other people, when they make decisions based on people and relationships. So if I make this decision, how is it going to affect my friends, my colleagues, other people? So they have a feeling preference. So when I speak at conferences, I usually hand out these colored cards. And it'll be quite interesting for you to just have a look at these. And what I ask people to do is read the adjectives on each of the 4 cards, and then based on the adjectives that describe you most, choose which is your dominant colored card. So don't do it based on the fact that green's your favorite color, because it won't work. But use the adjectives, and you will invariably see one card that has got more adjectives that you resonate with than the others. If you chose the red card, you probably finished ages ago and thinking, why are people taking so long to choose theirs? If you've chosen the yellow card, you're probably thinking, oh, this is quite fun and exciting. I wonder what's going to happen next. If you've chosen the green card, you may already be thinking, oh, I wonder who else is chosen green in the Rotary Club, just like me. And if you've chosen the blue card, you may not have even chosen it yet, because you haven't got enough information to make a firm decision on which is the correct one for you. Okay, let's have a look. Let's have can we use the chat box? Let's see who we've got just in the chat box. So drop it down from the top. It's on the top right of your menu. Just chat and put in which dominant color you've chosen. Okay, so Debbie is chosen dominant green, Stella is chosen green, Ngozi blue, Ada red, Victoria green.
Is there a way of sending it once you've filled it in? Do you need to send it, or is it just does it go automatically?
Sorry, what was that question?
Yeah, I put in the colour, but I was wondering, do I need to send it, or does it go automatically once I've added it?
What's your who's speaking? What's your name?
Sorry, I beg your pardon. It's Noel.
No, I think you need to send it. I haven't seen it come up on the screen yet. No.
Oh, okay.
Sure. Green. Okay, so green, blue. Yeah.
I think that's gone.
I've chosen red, but I don't know how to send it.
Okay, that's right. You've chosen red, and
yeah, Soraya.
Soraya. Right. It's interesting with that red because you were very, very talkative at the start, and that is an extroverted energy. So great. So you've in the group here, the Rotary, you've got quite a bit of green, which is no surprise because it's about giving back to the community, and I would certainly expect that. But as a team, you've got all the colours available to you. I think the only one that I haven't seen pop up is the yellow. But you've lots of you all chosen different colour energies, which is fantastic because I believe that teams that work really well together value these behavioral differences, and we all bring different skills. So Soraya, you said that you had a lot of that red energy, and this is what I call the strategists. Results focused, decisive, assertive. Their motto is be brief, be bright, be gone. They like to move things forward at pace. You've got nobody with the yellow energy that actually put in their comments. These are the communicators. They're persuasive. They're very optimistic. They're engaging. You will easily spot people with yellow energy because when they talk to you, they talk with their hands. The hands go all over the place, and they get quite excited about things. So the communicators. Then we've got the green, that lovely green, which is what I call the diplomat. They're supportive, listening, very loyal, and they like harmony and consensus of opinion, and they like to help other people. And then last but not least, the blue, I call these the experts, and they're very consistent. They like to analyze things. They are very objective in what they like to do. And the experts, their motto is give me the detail. So as I said, the red was be brief, be bright, be gone. The blue is give me the detail. The green is show me you care. And the yellow, which nobody said was involve me. So it's lovely for the people on board, you know, if you're working together, is you've got a great opportunity to use these different behavioral skills that people have. And profiling gives you an accurate understanding of who you are. So when I work with teams and we do online profiling, one of the things that we get is this wonderful graph that it shows us with this individual their levels of introversion and extroversion. So that's where they get their energy from, and whether they make decisions based on feelings, their heart, or thinking, their head, the logic. So this person's very extroverted, lots of yellow energy, also very much into emotions and relationships and people, because they've got a lot of the yellow, which is a people energy, and a green, which is people energy as well. Not so logical. So a little bit less of the blue and the red, which is the logical side. And just to let you into a little secret, this is my graph. So this is me leading with yellow and green, and that's why for 20 years I've enjoyed working with teams and people, because that hits my behavioral buttons. That excites me, that motivates me. So most behavioral profiles that are any good will have an overview page. So it gives you some great information about yourself. They give you some lovely information about communicating with different people in the team, and also what strengths I bring to a team. So there's some really valuable information within these profiles. And when you've profiled a team, the beauty of it is you can actually understand and map where different people sit, and therefore begin to play to people's strengths. So this was a team I was working with recently. Their biggest challenge was they only had one person with blue energy. So they didn't have anybody who was, they didn't have a lot of people that were strong on the detail, the process, the procedures, because that's what the blue energy brings. So profiling individuals in a team can give you some wonderfully rich information to be able to play to people's strengths within that team. So what I say to teams is going back to what we said about the two skills that we bring our technical skills and people skills. One of the things I suggest to every team that I work with is that they create an Excel spreadsheet, quite simple, but to actually then put in that spreadsheet the names of the people in the team, what their technical skills are, and also what their people skills are. Because individual team members can then look at this as an aid memoir to understand and utilize the strengths of different people in different situations. As an example, I was working with a team the other day that didn't have this, and we started writing it out. And when I shared it, one of them had written down that they had a legal degree. And one of the other team members said, "Why didn't you tell us you had a legal degree? I had a legal problem the other day, and if I'd known you had a degree, a law degree, then I could have come right to you to ask for your thoughts and your knowledge and your experience." So simple things like this can make a significant difference. So if you're working in any teams and you haven't got one of these technical people skills matrix, very simple, as I said, Excel spreadsheet, really worthwhile creating one and getting everybody to understand the skills that other people bring to the team. And the last bit on the who of a team, understanding who's in your team. I don't know if you've heard of this phrase, "there's no I in team." Yeah, it's a well-known phrase. Well, I totally disagree. I think there's lots of I's in teams, as you can see being built at the moment. I think in total there's 13 I's, and they are called individuals. And as an individual, we bring valuable, unique technical skills and behavioral skills to a team. And it's really important that our colleagues value and appreciate those skills that we bring. So just food for thought in terms of thinking about who is in your team. So let's move on now to the value of knowing how effectively your team is working. Many years ago, when I worked in Barclays, I was quite curious as a manager, as a leader. So I used to go up to the desks of the people that I worked with, and I used to ask them all sorts of questions. You know, it might be, how's your day going? Have you got any challenges? You know, how is the communication within the team? So I used to ask lots and lots of questions, and this curiosity to understand how my team and the individuals were feeling and working. And over the years, I developed questions that I used time and time again to ask different members of different teams that I worked with what was going on. And I found that they were really, really useful. And one day I sat down and I had about 48 questions, and I suddenly realized that these questions fitted into different, what I call, elements of teamwork. And this is when I created this model called Team Dynamics, which measures how effectively a team is working. So as you can see on the screen, there's 16 what I call elements that make up effective teamwork. And let's just have a look at these 16. So they link into the color model of behaviors, which is useful for teams that are using it because they understand it. So the 4 what I read elements are accountability. So who is accountable for doing what in your team? Decision making. Who has the authority to make decisions to do what? Purpose. What does your team exist to do? And vision. What are you looking to achieve in 18 months, 24 months time? So these are what I call strategic actions. Then we have the blue elements. So planning. Do you have plans? Are those plans updated on a regular basis? Do you have processes in place that you need to follow? It's really important. If there are critical processes, you need to have them written down. Do you as a team reflect on your performance and think about what's gone right and what's gone wrong and what you could do differently in the future? And then finally, roles and skills, which goes back to knowing who's in your team. Do we know what skills different people bring and what are the roles in the team that they undertake? That's what I call framework mapping, because they're maps, they're frameworks that we can use to make our team work effectively. Then we go on to the yellow, and the 4 yellow ones are collaboration. How well do people share their knowledge and experience and collaborate by sharing that with other people in the team? Communication. How good is our communication within the team? Does it work for everybody? Some people like written communication, some people like verbal communication. How do we get that right for our team? What's our working environment like? Is it a positive working environment, or do we just have our heads down at our computers and we're just ticking off things and then moving off to the next thing, and there's no energy or buzz or vibrancy about the place? And finally, transformation. Do we actually let people come up with ideas to make things better? So these are the 4 yellow elements, and these are what I call creative interactions. And then last but not least, the green elements, commitment. How committed are people to working in your team? Or are they 9 to 5 and they just walk out of the office even though they can see their colleague is struggling and they won't ask them, is there any assistance I can offer you? Diversity. Do we appreciate the diversity within our team? And it could be diversity of behavioral skills, diversity of religious beliefs, diversity due to our genders. It could be all these different things, but do we value people for who they are, for being them? What are your team meetings like? Do they start and end on time? Do they come up with actions that people are accountable for? And finally, how strong is trust within our team? Do individuals trust each other? So this is what I call coactive connections. So I created this model with these 16 elements, and I aligned 3 questions to each of these 16 elements. So as an example, this is team meetings. This is one that regularly I find teams who use this model, they find they struggle with. And basically what happens is team members are asked 3 questions per element. So that makes the total of 48 questions because there are 16 elements. And team members are asked to complete this anonymously about their team. And a report is produced that amalgamates all the answers. So if we have a look at this team meetings, so team meetings, we're saying that they're 77% effective. So nearly 8 out of 10 people, if it was a team of 10, are saying that our team meetings are working okay. The problem issue with team meetings here, we can see highlighted is the final question: are team meetings start and end on time? It obviously doesn't. You know, there's an average score here of 66%. Somebody scored it as 1, somebody scored it as 10, and if you remember, there's 48 questions, so this is ranked 48th. So that means it's the lowest of all the questions that have been answered. So immediately with this information, this team can actually start to understand what's going wrong with their team meetings. Why don't they start and end on time? So this is where you can get into discussions. And this team, the reason why it was scored low is because the team meetings weren't starting on time because they had back-to-back meetings. And a lot of them, their previous meetings were overrunning, which meant that when they went to their team meeting, they were late for it. They were able to highlight that this was an issue. They were able to discuss what other issues were surrounding this. And they came up with a solution, which was quite simply, nobody was to book back-to-back meetings. They had to have a 15-minute stopgap between their meetings. So even if another meeting overran, they still have 15 minutes to actually get to their team meeting. And immediately this started working more effectively. So just to give you an example, the Team Dynamics report has 2 front pages. And as I said, is completed anonymously by team members, and the results are amalgamated. So first of all, it gives us a team effectiveness score. So this team has got an effectiveness score of 56%, which isn't that good. It shows what is working well. So the team is saying that processes are great or are working the best of the 16. They have a reasonable working environment. Then we've got the bottom 8 elements. They say collaboration is the worst. So we've got that on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you've got some information about tasks and relationships. So is there a balance between tasks and relationships? Tasks are scored slightly better than relationships in this team, but there's a reasonable balance. And sat under these 2 pages, and I'm not going to go into detail with these, but you have the individual questions and you have the individual averages, the minimum, maximum scores, and the ranking of each. So these 2 pages relate to what I call task categories and elements, so the red and blue. And then we have the relationship categories, which is about the people-centric categories and elements. So there's some wonderfully rich data and information that you can get from this report. And going back to this team, we said they had a 56% effectiveness rating, and that puts them in the developing team category, because I've measured all these teams that have used it, so I can understand whether they're developing, whether they're an average team, or whether they're high performing. And again, it's really important information that the team should be aware of. I just thought I'd show you this example. I was working with a team, and it's just fascinating. Once you've got some data, once you've got some information, it opens up a huge conversation then. And this team I was working with, their start point was they had a problem with their decision making. They had a problem with their decision making because they didn't have a strong vision for their team. And therefore, because they didn't have a strong vision for their team, nobody held each other accountable for breaking the decisions that had been made. The reason why they weren't accountable is they didn't have processes in place to actually measure their accountability. And they never therefore discussed them at their team meetings because they never planned to do that. And the reason why that they didn't plan is they didn't spend time reflecting on how their team was working. So purely and simply from one question out of the 48, it opened up a whole heap of other issues that this team faced. But the beauty of it was they were able to discuss it, and they were able to actually come up with ideas to overcome these challenges. So we've looked at the who, understanding who's in your team technically and also behaviorally. I've given you an overview of the importance of understanding how effectively your team is working. So I thought I'd finish off with just sharing a few hints and tips with you. And this is the big data. So this is all the information that's come from teams that have used the team dynamics model in 2019. And what it shows is I'm going to focus on two of these elements near the bottom. And the two that I'm going to focus on is purpose and team meetings, because they seem to go wrong for quite a few teams. So let's have a look at purpose. Purpose is the understanding of what the team exists to do, what your team exists to do, and the benefits that it delivers. And from the data that I've gathered, 4 out of 10 members say that they don't know their team purpose and they don't know their objectives, which is frightening, absolutely frightening. This is me on a bad day when I hear that this team just doesn't understand what they do, what they exist to do. And for me, team purpose is the most important thing that you've got to get right. And here's an example for you. This was a finance team, and I asked them what their purpose was. And this is what they came up with: to produce monthly accounts that are as accurate as possible as quickly after the month end. Now, I don't know about you, but that is not inspiring or motivational or exciting. And this team were called the bean counters. They were known as the bean counters, and they had a very low self-esteem of themselves, and other teams actually devalued the service that they delivered. So I sat down with them and I said, okay, let's create a team purpose statement. And it has 3 elements: what you do, what that enables, and the benefits. And this is what they came up with. The finance team exists to ensure the timely delivery of value-adding financial data and information to our global business units. It enables them to make informed investment decisions that result in tangible benefits to our customers, staff, and organizations. And I hope you agree that that is much more inspirational and motivational. All of a sudden, their self-esteem went through the roof because they realized that they weren't just the bean counters, they added value to the organization. And equally, the other teams who they work with, they've started to feel the same way. So if you haven't got a team purpose statement, just think about creating one. You'll have these slides, so you can use these slides to do so. As I said, it should be motivational. You should be able to tell somebody within 1 minute There should be no jargon. So somebody should understand it outside of your organization. So just a tip there for you on team purpose. Team meetings, I'm sure you've been to loads of team meetings in your lives, and some of them are like this. They are pretty boring and people fall asleep. 1 in 3 people say that their team meetings are ineffective. So if you've got a team of 10, that's 3 people saying that our team meetings aren't working. That is a lot of wasted time. Almost 4 out of 10 team members say they don't receive the information to prepare for team meetings. Some people like to have the agenda. They like to have the backup information so that they can do some research before they come to the meeting. So obviously there's something going wrong with team meetings, and because we haven't got enough time for me to go through the hints and tips here, I don't know if any of you have got a smartphone, but if you've got a smartphone, if you haven't, don't worry. But if you've got a smartphone and you put it onto your camera and then you hold it up to the QR code, you'll see it should open up one of your web browsers on your phone if you've got a smartphone. That will take you to the article that I've written about making team meetings work for everybody. For those of you that haven't got a smartphone, don't worry. As you'll see at the bottom, there's the code. Once you get the slides, then you will be able to use that code to go along to my website and find the article. But I thought I'd share that with you as a gift from me to you to make your team meetings work more effectively. Okay, so key learning points from the webinar this evening. 2 really. Number 1, know who is in your team. And remember, there's 2 things, their technical skills and their behavioral skills. So find out those wonderful skills that people have. And secondly, if you aren't measuring how effective your teamwork is, consider measuring it. It is really valuable because, as I said, if you are in a car, if you sat in a car without any dashboard, you wouldn't be very happy driving your team members in that car. And a lot of teams are doing that. They're working blindly. They haven't got the information about teamwork that they need. So do just have a think about that. So we've covered the 4 objectives, and we've covered them in the time. Again, for those of you who've got a QR code camera, point your camera at the QR code. It will open up an email. Please feel free to email me, and you can give your feedback on the webinar, or you can ask me other questions. So please do use that. And before we finish, has anybody got any questions for me? I'm just going to go to the chat box. Apologies for being late. Okay, no worries, fine. So there's no questions there.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Noel again. Just regarding the slides, will they be emailed to us, or?
Yeah, I will email them to Himanshu so that then he can forward them on to you.
He'll forward them on. Lovely, thank you.
Yeah, pleasure.
Any more questions?
How important is the leader in motivating and inspiring people?
Very. I did a survey of staff, and I'm on LinkedIn, and I've got, because I've spoken at so many conferences and worked with so many teams, I've got about 4,000 plus connections. So I went out on LinkedIn and asked staff, I said, what are the attributes that you want to see in your leaders? And they came back with 4 attributes. They said, we want our leaders to be competent. And they went a little bit further. They said they wanted them to be competent technically and behaviorally. So that links into what we've been talking about this evening. Secondly, they said they wanted their leaders to be inspirational. People like to work in a team and be inspired to be the best that they can be. So leaders have got to inspire their team members that their team is a great team and what they do is of value. Secondly, most important, they said they wanted their leaders to be visionary. So leaders have got to actually understand and say, this is what we are trying to achieve. Whatever we do on our day-to-day jobs and roles, this is why we're doing it. This is the future that we're trying to achieve. And the top attribute that staff members said they wanted to see in their leaders is they said they wanted their leaders to be honest. And that is about being honest about who they are as a leader. You know, telling the truth, saying things as they are, giving the bad news, giving the good news. So those are the four. They wanted them to be competent, inspirational, visionary, and honest. So yes, the leader is very, very important in terms of moving the team forward.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
I think you've got a question that came up.
Yes, there are a couple of questions on the chat.
Okay. Let's have a look on the chat. How do you use this this model on a strategic? How can you use this model when managing a couple of teams? Okay, yeah, I can answer those questions. In terms of using the model at a strategic level, it doesn't matter what level of an organization you use it in. I've used it with strategic leadership teams. I've used it with project teams. I've used it with operational level teams. The teamwork is the same, irrespective of the level of a team or what that team does. Ultimately, teamwork covers those 16 elements, whether you're a strategic team, whether you're a project team or an operational team. So it works at those different levels. How can you use the model when managing a couple of teams? Again, I've actually done that, and it's quite fascinating because even if you manage a couple of teams, those teams are going to be different and they're going to have different challenges. So I've found it really useful, and teams that I've worked with, that they can compare and contrast. So if you've got two teams and they both use the team dynamics model, you can actually look at their results individually, but you can also look at their results together to see if there are any similarities between maybe their strengths and their challenges. Sometimes it can highlight something that's going wrong at an operational level, so something that's beyond the team's capability of changing. So it can be used on both teams. So, Ngozi, I hope that that covers both of your questions. Okay.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Thank you, really helpful.
Pleasure, pleasure. As I said, you know, it's been an absolute pleasure to share this information with you, and I hope it helps you as a Rotary Club, but also I hope it helps you in terms of the teams that you work with above and beyond the Rotary. So certainly thank you for your time this evening. I wish you continued success and happiness in both work and life, and you've got my contact details. As I said, I'm on LinkedIn if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn. You've got my email address, and as I said, I will send the slides through to Himanshu so that you have those as a reference point to use in the future.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Great.
Bossy's
Thank
going
you,
to be
Nick.
fussy now.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, pleasure. Thank you. And,
Have a lovely evening.
Thank you, fellows. Just before we break for the evening, Nick, if you could stop sharing your screen.
I'm just about to. There we go.
Thank you.
And I shall leave you all. I shall wave you farewell, and nice to have met you virtually.
Well, yes, thank you, Nick, for this, and I think very fascinating insight. I think it'll be good for us as a club, and of course we can use this in our professional lives as well. But it'll be good as a club to understand how we can apply this information into the work that we do. So thanks for that.
Pleasure.
From our president, Bose, there's a small, well, I mean, if this would have been in person, we would have presented this to you in person, but well, I will make sure that this reaches to you in post.
Yes, yeah, or you know, save on postage if you're able to send it through electronically. That would be fantastic.
I will do that. I will send it to you on your email.
That would be wonderful. Yeah, and that saves the postage. But thank you ever so much. That's much appreciated.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot, Nick.
And finally, well, I would like to also thank, I'm sure our President Bose would like to do so, but thank you, Debbie, for joining, and thanks, Councillor Joy, for joining us as well. Before we break up, I would just like to tell everyone that the nominations for East London Community Heroes Awards are still open till 30th August. We've extended it by a week. As you can see, it was originally 23rd August, but it is 30th August. So please keep on nominating, keep on inspiring people to apply for these awards. And if there are any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or John or Bose in the club. So with that, thanks once again. Thanks, Nick. Thanks everyone for joining, and we wish. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, both.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I know that we're time, but I just want to say that AG Nosa, Nigeria, that so it's just to thank him for joining us from Nigeria. I'm not sure if he's still on. AG Nosa, are you still on? Okay, could you just
yes, I
say
am.
yeah, just a quick
yes,
word.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me appreciate you for inviting me. And I must say clearly that I did enjoy the very stimulating seminar. Though a little bit academic, but it was on point. Basically what was given out this evening, it was very enriching. And I'm trying to see how I can replicate most of what I have gained this evening to my club in Benin, Nigeria. But all in all, it has been a very wonderful evening for me. And I can't thank you enough, for the invite. And of course, in particular, the members of the great Rotary Club of Stratford. It is a great pleasure, like I've said, and all the good people over there. I am very pleased, to be your company this evening. Of course, Soraya, the last time I met you was about 4 or 5 years ago in the convention, and then goes there. I'm quite very happy. I feel very much at home, this evening with the members of Rotary Club of Stratford, and I look forward to having more fellowships with you in due course. Thank you so much, my president. God bless you all.
Good luck, Francis. Good luck, Francis.
Thank you.
Keep in touch. Keep in touch, Sister Raya. Thank you.
Okay. Okay then. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. And I know that Councillor Joy is here, and a big thank you, which Imanju has done. So good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Have an enjoyable
day. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Really nice, really good. Bye.
Really nice, yeah. Well done, Imanju.
Thank you, Imanju.
Well done, Manchu.
Bye. If we don't mention your name, we didn't do it on purpose.
No,
You did.
You did.
You did well. You did very well. Thank you. Good night. See you.
Thanks so much. Good night, everybody.
Himanshu, don't forget Jennifer.
Bye. Bye.
Don't forget Jennifer Johnson's email to me, please. Could you?
No problem.
Don't forget. Yeah. Okay.